Saturday, the 5th of October, was World Teachers' Day. And I read in Eyewitness News, South African teachers have little to celebrate on World Teachers' Day. Apparently the South African Democratic Teachers Union, or SATU as they know, say that teachers are underpaid, overworked, they work in unsafe conditions, and they are not appreciated. Sadly, their pupils have even less to celebrate. I'm Toastmaster, ladies and gentlemen. That same article lamented about the fact that pupils in South Africa read and work out complexity worse than their counterparts in other countries. Apparently our President is introducing programs to improve the education system. But wait, that's not all. To prepare them for the fourth industrial revolution. Unfortunately, there's a lot more work to be done. And one of the things we need to do is to debunk some of the beliefs that we have about education presently. And I'd like to talk about three of them. The first one is the belief that government needs to run a compulsory education system. The second one is the belief that everybody takes 12 years to get to matric. And the third one is the belief that the teacher knows everything. And these three beliefs actually undermine our system. Let me talk about the first one. When government says education is compulsory, they're obliged to provide it. So what do we end up with? People who don't want to go to a school, with teachers who didn't want them there in the first place. Is it any wonder that we have problems in our schools at the moment? What, in the last week, 3 stabbings in schools by pupils. When you look at the education department budget and the number of pupils, they spend 20,000 rand per pupil per year. Can you imagine how different it would be if they said to you as a parent, I have 20,000 rand to spend on your child at school. To whom shall I give this money to educate your child? Think of how schools would start improving to get pupils in. When parents have actually got a choice of where to send their children. Do we have a choice at the moment? Send them to the nearest school. Do we have a choice of teacher? No. A rather tenuous situation. Let's look at the second one. We know in Toastmasters, for example, not everybody reaches the different milestones at the same time. We know from adult studies that people take different lengths of time to get to different milestones. Some people it's because they're brighter, some learn differently. But why do we insist that people, no matter how bright they are or how slow they are, they must all get to matric in the same stages? What's the difference whether you get there in 7 years or 14 years? I mean, is the objective matric or is it to prepare you for the future? And where does this matric come from anyway? Who decided matric? Now if you could choose the qualification that you wanted, and people could provide a qualification, it would help people as well. Because we're not all after the same thing. It's already been shown that matric doesn't serve most of the professions that you do afterwards. And let's look at a third one, assuming that a teacher knows everything. Some of you may have been lucky enough, like me, to have had that one teacher who inspired you, who helped you grow? There's not many of them. In fact, there's so few of them that we have to write stories or watch movies about them. And people like John Keating in Dead Poets Society comes to mind. Or Mark Thackeray in To Sir with Love. Or Jean Brodie in The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie. Or the most famous of them all, Charles Edward Chipping, also known as Mr. Chips. Goodbye, Mr. Chips. In fact, he became so famous that at school, if you were up to something that you shouldn't be, and you had to stand by, and the teacher would be coming, and they would say, Chips, Chips. It's a pity that there are so few teachers who inspire you. But you know what those teachers have in common? They don't believe that they know everything. They believe that their pupils know more than them, almost. Now just think of the difference if you assume that your teacher doesn't know everything. Perhaps your pupil will take more responsibility for their own education. Perhaps parents will get more involved in their education. Because at the moment, parents are just leaving it to the teacher to try and do everything. So that's three assumptions that we need to debunk. So what can we do? While you have your children at school, perhaps you could get more involved with what's happening at the school. Because at the moment, a lot of parents just leave the school, just let it carry on. We could also get more involved in organizations that are trying to change schools. Because most of us stand away from education. But more than that, we can get teachers to change it as well. And the reason for that is when our children are finished, we can step away from the school. But that teacher has got his career invested in that school. He's there for life. And he needs to be part of the change. So we all need to tell them, come on, Mr. Chips.